A pair of 3 and 4 teams look to get to 500 as the Eagles of Eastern Michigan land in Muncie, Indiana during homecoming week to take on the Ball State Cardinals. The Ball State Sports Link Gameday show starts now on Facebook Live.
We represent Ball State University. I know it's the start of something special, man. Fast, physical, relentless. First 2 hard goals for 4 quarters. 7 on 3, 1, 2, 3, bam!
Hello, I'm Max Abrahamson, and welcome to the first ever edition of Max Abe TV. We're here at the 2018 Homecoming Bed Race. Let's take a look.
On your mark, get set, go!
You can't show up to the bed races and get a 1480 and expect to win. You just can't.
What is this? I mean, seriously.
So we were going for the prospector look, and then the motto, dig the well. As always, Vince Mulch is our hero here at Sports Link, so dig the well before you're thirsty.
Dig the well. We ready. Let's go.
What are your thoughts on the other Sports Link team?
Other Sports League team did really good. They might have got a better time than us. I'm not really sure, but they had a great outfit. They're probably best dressed, second at least behind us, but they did really good.
What are your tips to teams in bed races?
To get your weight up front, the person, sometimes they have them lying down, but what I've seen is the teams that have their weight up front keeps it steadier. Another tip is don't have anybody my age participating, pushing, or riding.
Congratulations, guys.
Live inside Schumann Stadium on a cloudy day. Rain in the forecast, but not imminent at the moment. 57 degrees and extremely windy here in Muncie, Indiana. Hello, everyone. Glad to have you with us alongside Alex Thomas and Jack Kizer. I'm Jarin Matheny. You can hear the wind already, and it was windy all week here in Muncie, especially during those bed races.
Yeah, and from my understanding is that you guys could have used a little bit of backwind to help yourself to victory in the bed races. If you're not familiar, Ball State Sports Link, defending bed race champs, an iconic moment here at Ball State during homecoming week. And can we pull that up, actually? Because I think we need another look at the outfits these two were sporting. There it is. Oh, Jack, what's up with that hat there?
Oh, well, we all had a little bit of a different hat, but I went with the cowboy hat. The general theme was dig the well. Our hero, Vince Welch, Fox Sports pit reporter for NASCAR, he told us to dig the well before we're thirsty, and that's what we tried to do. Unfortunately, the execution was not there on race day.
Came in weak. Thankfully for you guys, our producer, Erinn, Casey, amongst a whole team of SportsLink students, brought home this bad boy at the Flag Football Championship for homecoming. So SportsLink, we don't just talk about sports. We're capable.
Very
some of
capable.
us, at least.
And yes, some of us. Alex
Yeah.
didn't even want to participate,
Hey.
so we'll
Alex was on the sidelines for both. Let's just say that.
Leave it to the athletes. That's all I'm saying.
As Ball State football last week, they had a huge victory on the road against Central Michigan as we prepare for homecoming week now. And against Central, the Chippewas, they fought with Ball State through the entirety of the game, but really it was a tale of two halves.
It really was. If you look at that first half, Central Michigan ran for nearly 200 yards in the first half alone, and they're not a great running team. That's what was so interesting about it. I mean, big play after big play. The first 4 drives of the game, Central Michigan was able to put points on the board, whether it be a field goal or a touchdown, and they just had a rhythm to it. A fumble from Riley Neal late in the first half really is what propelled a 20-7 halftime lead in that game. Thankfully, the Cardinals were able to get it together at halftime.
Yeah, the fumble right there that you just saw, that was the big momentum shifter for Central Michigan. Ball State had that momentum later in the second half, but the big plays from the Chippewas just put the Cardinals in a huge hole going into halftime, but second half rolled around and they were a different team.
What changed in the second half, guys?
They had rhythm offensively, and defensively they didn't allow as many big plays. The tackling was much improved in the second half, and then you saw once the defense got that first stop, the momentum kind of shifted to Ball State's offense. When they got a scoring drive down, I think you saw the whole sideline felt we're capable of coming back in this game, and it was a victory they needed. It comes down to a nail-biter with Morgan Hagee, but really just Neal getting it done on the ground too was massive in the second half.
The defense kept the offense and just the entire team in the game until the offense could find its rhythm, and that came in the fourth quarter. So the defense came up with huge stops in the third quarter, and then the offense got rolling in the fourth. And also, something to note, Central Michigan, 11 penalties for 115 yards. Central Michigan shot itself in the foot. Riley Neal threw an interception on the last drive, but a roughing the passer penalty took that away. So Central Michigan hurt itself, but Ball State really found a rhythm on both sides of the ball in the second.
Head coach Mike New after the game said that was our best half of football we've seen, and it certainly looked like it. That offense was flowing. The defense got stops when it needed to, and then you saw the third aspect of the game. Morgan Hagee come in and be clutch. That's something that we had missed in his career some. No game-winning field goals, comes in, boots it through the uprights, and it made the difference and brought home a win for Ball State.
And Riley Neal used his legs last week as well for Ball State, and 2 touchdowns on the ground, something we are going to have to see from Neal probably today because of the wind being a factor. But you talked about it, guys. The defense keeping Ball State in the game was most important.
Ray Wilborn, Jalen Thomas, monster games against Central Michigan. Jalen Thomas with 10 tackles. Ray Wilborn had another forced fumble. He leads the nation in forced fumbles and had a huge sack to end the game against Central Michigan. The defense anchored down, got a turnover on downs in the third quarter. That was a huge play to start out the second half. Less than 100 yards on the ground in the second for Central Michigan after almost 200 in the first half. So the defense made adjustments at halftime and came out really with a renewed energy in the second half and kept the team in the game.
Ball State's top 4 tacklers this year are their 4 starting linebackers, and Jacob White, Ray Wilborn, Jalen Thomas, and Christian Albright. They showed it in the second half last week. Those 4 guys were everywhere. And another guy that I want to give a shout out to, James Jeanette, has been playing a little bit backup defensive end, has put some pressure on the quarterback in the third and fourth quarter in these last 2 weeks at big times. He's coming through, and especially when Albright needs a breather, we know his abilities, but to have another guy to go to in that moment, massive.
The depth of the front 7 has really been impressive for Ball State. At the linebacking spot, James Jeanette and those front 3 that Ball State's been playing in the new 3-4 defense, really been impressive to me.
And it's Jimmy Dawes, some of those guys down the line that have really helped Ball State improve on that defensive inside, especially through those 4 linebacking positions for Ball State through the first 5 games of Mid-American Conference play now, and this is a Ball State team where we can't really figure out who they are. What have you guys seen? Can we figure this team out yet?
Well, another thing to look back last week, you talked about the penalties, Jack. That big roughing the passer, I mean, that game was over. Central Michigan shot themselves in the foot and gave Ball State an opportunity, and they capitalized. But that's something to keep an eye on, is that Central Michigan made a lot of mistakes late in the game last week. Ball State needs to come out and capitalize, not be thankful for mistakes later on in a game. Eastern Michigan, on paper, this is a game you should be able to win. You should be able to run the ball against them, and the conditions have set you up for that as well.
Ball State was a team that was competitive but couldn't get over the hump. Last week, the script was flipped, and this is a huge momentum builder for Ball State. Mike New said, we're going to take this momentum, we're going to ride with it, and this could change the course of the season. I know Ball State's 2 wins have been against 2 bottom feeders in Central Michigan and Kent State, but wins in the Mid-American Conference are hard. 2-1 through the first 3 games. A good start for Ball State, and this is such a swing game right now.
And they're not going to see a bottom feeder today. Eastern Michigan, they had a game of 2 halves as well last week against Toledo, but a big victory for the Eagles.
Theirs was flipped as to what Ball State experienced. Led the game against Toledo, a perennial power in the Mid-American Conference, 28-3 at halftime. Quarterback Mike Glass III had gotten the start, ran the ball for over 100 yards in back-to-back games, went out with an injury late in the first half, and that's where you saw the difference. Tyler Wiegers came in and just didn't have as many answers. Toledo nearly came all the way back.
28-3 in the first half, and that was really because of Mike Glass III. The injury was a huge blow to them. Despite the fact that Wiegers has started 6 times this year, he doesn't provide the same explosiveness that Glass III does. We're not sure on Glass's status for today, but if it is Wiegers in there, then Eastern Michigan's offense, quite frankly, takes a bit of a step back, and that helps Ball State.
Not to mention, you just heard it, and we've been experiencing it. This wind is real today. It means running the ball is going to be that much more important. Tyler Wiegers is more of a pass-first quarterback, 11 of 15 for 183 yards last week, whereas you saw Mike Glass get it done with his legs, over 100 yards rushing in back-to-back games. With with the weather today, no Glass for Eastern Michigan potentially, it's got to lean towards Ball State in that favor.
Those long balls that Wiegers throws could hang up in the air just a split second longer. Who knows? The DBs could have a few extra opportunities at interceptions today.
And it's going to be on those defensive backs. Toledo losing to Eastern Michigan for the first time since 2006. It's Chevis Jackson in that group, and something Coach Elson's preached all year long is attack the football. They have a good chance to do that today against Eastern.
They're really strong as well as forcing turnovers. Last week was the first time Ball State was negative in the turnover battle in a game so far this season. That's mighty impressive. Now, that is a credit to Riley Neal and some of the running backs and holding onto the ball, but that defense, 4 forced fumbles from Christian Albright, 2 interceptions from Jalen Thomas. I mean, they've made plays when they needed to all season.
They've come in waves, and they've come at opportune times. The defense has been really strong in that department, and you said it, David Elson, that's been an emphasis this year. They want to take the ball away and give the offense more chances.
And for Ball State, 2 wins inside the Mid-American Conference already. It's a big momentum booster, but they're still not at the top where they want to be this season.
They still have some ways to reach there. A close loss to Northern Illinois is great, but those are the teams that you have to beat to make noise and make people aware of your abilities as a team. This Ball State football team might still be a year out from really reaching their ceiling and a lot of the talent they have. No Caleb Huntley again today in the backfield. That's going to make a difference in a largely running game, but you see Ball State sitting middle of the tier in the MAC West. They've beaten bottom feeders, like you said. They were close against the top. Now they've got something kind of in the middle with Eastern Michigan. We'll see how they do.
You're right. The next step is to beat those top teams, Northern Illinois, Western Michigan, Buffalo. And Eastern Michigan, despite that 1-3 record, this is a good football team. 3 losses have come to Northern Illinois, Western Michigan, and Buffalo, who are all undefeated in the Mid-American Conference. And another loss that Eastern Michigan has came by 3 points on the road at San Diego State. So this is a good football team. They beat Purdue on the road earlier in the year. It's going to be it's going to be a big test for Ball State this afternoon.
And Buffalo, a team who's already punched their ticket to a bowl game at 6-1 overall, 3-0 in conference play. They're playing currently against Toledo, and they're making a lot of noise inside the MAC.
That's a tough game. Toledo leading 17-7 at halftime. That's big. Buffalo, clearly a good team, as you mentioned, already clinched a bowl victory, and Toledo is one of the perennial powers in the Mid-American Conference. They've flirted with the top 25 over the last 4 years many times. Now it's a little bit of a different team this year, but they're still tough. For them to be up on Buffalo right now, that's impressive.
It just goes to show that the parity in this conference is ridiculous. Week in and week out, you just don't know what's going to happen. On paper, there may be a team that's clearly favored, but the competition is so steep and on such a level playing field that anything can happen each week.
In Central Michigan, they're going to have to rattle off 5 straight victories to try and get to a bowl game themselves. They play Western as soon as this one kicks off as well. And last week, a big win for Ball State like we talked about. And Morgan Hagee, knowing he can be clutch down the stretch, it's a good momentum for Ball State.
It'll be huge throughout the rest of the season, especially today. The wind is a factor. Having a little extra confidence going into a game like that, it can make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, a confident kicker is a good kicker. So if Hagee can carry that confidence over, that's huge for Ball State. But if these kickers are kicking into the wind, you may start to see some teams going for 2 over the course of the game because, 45-mile-per-hour gusts, that's a lot to deal with.
Could also be a quick game. A lot of running the football. Clock's going to keep ticking.
The win. It's going to be the biggest factor in today's game. Morgan Hagee, they had a lot of confidence in the kicker in that Central Michigan game, especially when we caught up with them after the win last week.
See Hagee, he's on his own. He's locked and loaded and zoned in while all the rest of the players are talking to the coaches.
I had confidence in Hagee. Not to say I wasn't concerned about it, because I obviously was, but I was confident in Hagee's ability, and he's as good of a kicker as we have in our conference, so I felt comfortable.
I was kind of nervous, but I had faith in Hagee. He had missed a field goal earlier, but I just knew he was going to bounce back, and he nailed it right down the middle.
Hagee is 42 points away from becoming the all-time leading scorer in Ball State program history. It's currently held by Jawan Edwards.
I had all the confidence in the world in him. Trust the snapper, trust the holder, just stare at those uprights like it's the biggest thing in the world.
Here's a chance for 3 big ones. From 37. He gives Ball State the lead.
We felt really good about going into it. That was in Morgan's wheelhouse, and he's a great kicker, and you feel good about him, especially a senior like that that's made a lot of big kicks. I know it was his first career game winner, but he's hit some big kicks.
Great moment for him, great moment for our team, and to send him out there and for him to deliver. That's why you do what you do.
7 seconds on the game clock. Lazaro now with 4 seconds, looking to throw. This could be the last play of the game. It will be the last play, and Ball State sacks him. The Cardinals will win it 24-23. A sack from Christian Albright.
The emotions were real high after that. You know, we're celebrating like we won the championship, but I mean, we worked hard to go get it, so we deserve to celebrate, I think.
To me, the best part of all of it was going to the locker room. And to me, that's why I do what I do, to see those guys and to get that locker room rocking. That's why you do what you do.
That game was probably like the craziest game I've ever been a part of. So just to win the field goal with Morgan Hagee is a great feeling.
You guys deserve it. You guys responded at halftime, and you went out and put your best half of football, in my opinion, together. You guys responded to the challenge. We're not happy with where we were at halftime. That's how it feels. That's how it feels. And let me say this one last thing. I know I don't tell you guys this enough. I love you guys. Love you too. Exactly what we needed to finish a close game. We're 2-1 in the match.
That could be a momentum changer for us, and our guys know now, hey, when we're in that situation again, no sweat. Let's keep our composure, let's keep grinding, and let's figure out a way to win in the fourth quarter.
A big win for Ball State last week, and the defense stepping up. A former defensive back for the Ball State Cardinals, Tyree Holder, joins us now. Tyree, 92nd edition of homecoming here. What was your favorite memory from homecoming?
Maybe my freshman year when we went into overtime with Western Michigan. And I remember Quake scored in that far end zone, and everybody ran on the field and kind of jumped on him in the pile. So that probably was my best memory of homecoming.
And with homecoming, it's usually one of the more attended games of the season. So what, as a player, is it the one you look forward to the most of the year, just knowing the environment's going to be there?
Definitely, and just seeing all my buddies, like back from when I was a freshman at Ball State to the seniors that were there then, and coming back now and seeing everybody. So it's just, it brings back like every single memory that you had during your career at Ball State, your time here.
What's it like to be back on the Ball State campus after a couple years away?
Not as a student athlete.
Yeah.
It feels very different, and as you guys noticed, the major change on campus is the huge roundabout. Everything looks different. You know, I lived in Miss Hurst, and Miss Hurst is no longer around, so it's different. It's different.
It definitely is. This is a current Ball State team that likes to take the ball away. You certainly know a thing or two about that. How important is that for a defense to get a turnover in a game, and what can it do for your momentum?
It's very vital. When you look at all the best teams in the countries, the number one thing that stands out, they get turnovers. You need turnovers to get an advantage in this game. You need turnovers. So the team that usually has the most turnovers wins the game.
And you went to a bowl game in your time. This team's starting to look a little bit like they might have a pretty good shot at it, maybe for the first time since then. And a team that goes to a bowl game, what's that sense of accomplishment feel like?
It feels very good because you know that your hard work is paid off. Everybody only sees what goes on Saturday or whenever the game is during the week. Nobody sees when you're here during the summer, running in that hot sun. You know what I mean? Out there just giving it your all. You know what I mean? Waking up at 6 a.m., 5 a.m. in the morning. You know, just giving it your all. So it makes you feel like, oh, it all paid off. It all was worthwhile.
You talked about the changes on Ball State's campus, but what do you miss most about Ball State?
What I miss most? Maybe just honestly, like just hanging around with all my teammates, seeing them all every day. We all split up. I'm in Florida, some of my friends in Michigan, you know, L.A., Chicago, so it's just tough. But to be honest, like I just miss like jail and just being able to walk out of my apartment, go downstairs, play video games with some of my other teammates, you know.
In your time with Ball State, is there one memory, not even homecoming related, that sticks out above the rest for you?
When I remember we were down 21-0 in Akron, I think in 2014, and I remember I had an interception and I ran it back. So that probably was one of my favorite memories right there. We came back, kind of put the icing on the cake. So that was one of my best memories.
Which that's got to be like the best feeling in the world, right?
That was the best feeling. I hugged the lady right here in the end zone. If I can play that in, cue it in.
You had 1 year under Mike New. What was different about him when he came into the program?
Coach New, his passion, because he was actually a player, and not just a player. He played here at Ball State, so he knows how it feels to put on that red and white every Saturday.
So that relationship, it transitions. I mean, the whole locker room grabbed onto that immediately when he came in.
And you can tell that you can definitely tell that he's genuine and cares about his players. He's a player's coach.
And for you, have you paid attention to this Ball State team this year?
Yes, a little bit. I try to catch him every now and then. I try to catch him.
What do you expect from this Ball State team today?
Shoot, pick up off where they left off last week against Central, and just keep it rolling. That was they played very well and didn't give up and kept fighting down from 20-7, I believe. So I just look for them to keep that momentum going into today's game.
So no question, Cardinals take home the victory today, right?
Oh, Cards by 90.
Cards by 90.
Cards by 90.
That's what you need, all you need.
No, I love the confidence. Tyree, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to have another guest coming up next, and Sports Link did his story a couple years ago, and it was a beautiful piece. Here's a little sneak peek of what we did a couple years ago with Teddy Williamson.
Dear Teddy, things don't always work in our favor. However, since I knew the consequences of my actions, I must man up and take it. I'm sorry.
Theodore Marquise Williamson was born May 29, 1995, known by his family and friends as Teddy.
I remember him being eager to run the ball and eager to play, and he just wanted to be part of something bigger, and he wanted to be part of a winning team.
When I would come off the field, he was a dad for sure. He would tell me if I was doing anything good. He would let me know if I was doing anything wrong.
My dad actually let me sit on his lap and steer going down the street. And as we approached that street, he told me to turn left. No, he told me to turn right, and I actually tried to turn the car left. And then from there, he moved me back to the passenger seat.
When Teddy was 7 years old, his father, Ted Williamson Sr., was arrested and placed behind bars.
I was involved in a drug trafficking ring, basically just involved with the wrong people. I don't think that I was providing as comfortable a life with my supplemental income.
Released when Teddy was 9 years old, Ted remained free until the summer of 2009.
I remember him picking me up from school one day, and there was just like an awkward silence for a while, and then he finally broke the news that he would have to go away again, and he made a mistake, and he was sorry, and wanted me to remain focused and be a man of the family and continue doing positive things the way that I was doing.
I let them down, I let myself down, and it wasn't a day that went by that I didn't think about those things. Just losing my family was my lowest point.
Now that was just a snippet of the Teddy Williamson story. You can find the whole story on our BSU platform. Search at BSU Sports Link, or on YouTube if you search Dear Teddy. And Teddy, welcome on the program, first of all.
Thank you very much.
So we kind of want to piggyback off there.
Yeah.
A major feature story. What's it like to kind of have a video team really pry into your life and kind of put it on the big screen? Is it a little scary?
Yeah, a tad bit. But I mean, it took us a little while to get it actually completed and the process started. But definitely enjoyed every moment of the experience.
And so we understand this first time back.
Yeah.
What's it like to be a non-player on game day?
I don't even know. I'm still taking it all in. looking around, seeing everyone. Definitely, I was just watching them warm up on the field over there, and just remember and reminiscing a little bit.
Yeah. What was the process like for that story? When did you guys start? When did it finally come to fruition?
Oh, wow. I want to say CT came to me around sophomore year and asked, did I want to do it? And then just knowing, schedule-wise, we always can never get together or something. Finally came to fruition around my senior year, though, around the last game. So it was pretty cool.
Homecoming, always one of the biggest events of the season. So
Yeah.
from your perspective, what are some of your fondest memories of homecoming?
Oh man, just the atmosphere and just coming out of the locker room, warming up, music of course, always just being around the guys. I mean, in specific, are you wondering like?
Sure. If you've got it, we'll divulge. We don't have to.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just always remember it being a great experience, no matter win, lose, or draw. Yeah.
What do you miss most about the Ball State environment?
I would say just being around the guys, honestly. I mean, that was the most fun part. Of course, waking up at 6 a.m. and running and throwing up and getting yelled at and all that. But it's the process that you go through with your brothers, and that's my fondest memory.
And your team captain is a senior.
Yes.
So you're talking about those 5 a.m. Everyone's looking towards the captain. So what's that role kind of look like as someone who's experienced it?
Yeah, I would say it looks like leadership. Definitely, whether you agree with something or whether you want to do it, you have to do it. And you have to be able to pull people along the way as well, who, could possibly, distract from the team or who, just embracing everyone.
So what is Teddy Williamson doing now? We see the story leading up to your senior year at Ball State. What's going on with you now?
So now I live in Henderson, Kentucky, so Western Kentucky, and I'm a financial advisor with Edward Jones. So I have my own office there and just taking it day by day, living the dream.
Things are rolling for Teddy. So getting back to the gridiron a little bit, Eastern Michigan, they're not great against the run, and with all this wind we're having, it's looking like running backs are going to get the football tonight.
Oh, yeah.
So you had some overlap with these guys. What do they bring to the table, some of these running backs?
Oh, man. I mean, Malik Donner, of course, his speed. I would say JG, his patience, and whenever he sees the hole open up, he'll burst through. I mean, those are the two guys that I actually played side by side with, but just watching everyone else on TV and on film, they look great as well.
And when we've been talking with JG, patience was interesting, but he also just kind of has this, like, I know I can do this, and confidence to him.
Oh, yeah,
Where's that come
absolutely.
from?
You have to. I would say most definitely his success that he had in high school, and then he translated it to college, of course. I mean, he's a student of the game. He always was, whether it was watching film, whether it was just knowing what he was doing, that's where that confidence definitely comes from.
Have you continued your relationship with those running backs?
Absolutely, yeah. I still check in with them and make sure they're staying on the right path and, working hard. So definitely, I mean, I talked to JG a couple weeks ago and told him I was back this weekend as well. So excited to see them on the field and after the game.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. So Eastern Michigan, you've had your fair run-ups against them. What do you remember, some of your memories about Eastern Michigan going up against that team?
Oh, man. Of course, when we played there, the gray field, that was a little different.
Yeah.
Never forget that.
Every time it catches me by surprise.
Yeah. So it created a different atmosphere for the game, but definitely I remember that. I know in specific in my framed jersey that they gave all the seniors last year, I have a picture of me running over a guy from Eastern Michigan. So hopefully, someone can get another one today.
Yeah.
So you're expecting a running back to run somebody over today?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Multiple times.
And I'm sure we know. Cardinal victory today, right?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, Teddy, thank you very much for joining us. And Teddy, a part of a team in 2012 who, during homecoming, pushed the limits in overtime and found the way to get a win with Keith winning at the helm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jarin. Happy homecoming, Cardinal fans. For this week's edition, I'm throwing it back to homecoming 2012 when I was still in 9th grade. The Cardinals' matchup against Western Michigan got off to an impressive start as Jawan Edwards finished off a 13-play, 78-yard drive to find pay dirt. The Broncos were quick to respond as they capped off a 78-yard drive with a touchdown of their own. In the second quarter, WMU took over as Josh Schaefer caught the Cardinals napping on this 45-yard touchdown to give them the lead. Brian Fields gave the Broncos a 14-point lead in the second quarter with his 23-yard ramble and leaving the Cardinals in a scramble. Just before halftime, Steven Schott nailed a 34-yard field goal to close the gap by 11 and give the Cardinals a little momentum. After a shaky third quarter, the Cards finally got going when Jawan Edwards torched the Broncos D and hit the end zone standing up. Down by 4 in the fourth quarter, quarterback Keith Wenning led the Cardinals on one last drive and found Jameel Smith in the end zone to give them a 3-point lead with 50 seconds left in the game. Unfortunately, the other guys hit a 52-yarder as time expired in the rain to send it to overtime. After the defense held WMU and they missed a field goal, Jawan Edwards finished off the comeback, carrying the team on his back and giving the Cardinals a huge win. Edwards finished the day with 138 yards and 3 touchdowns, and you might as well have just named him Homecoming King. Jarin, I'm no judge, but you would be my homecoming king. The question is, who would be your queen? Sending it back to you.
Well, AJ, my homecoming queen probably have to be our producer back behind the walls here, Erinn Casey.
Erinn Casey, get a shout out.
But we now welcome on Eastern Michigan's athletic director, Scott Weatherby. Scott, thanks for joining us, first of all.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, what's it like to be back on Ball State's campus?
Yeah, to be back, spending 6 years of my life here in Muncie, and to kind of come back and see all the new buildings, and I haven't seen the clock tower and those things. It's a lot different for me, and step foot on this field, first time in 20 years, brings back a lot of old memories. I remember the time when we tore the goalpost down after winning the MAC championship and going through that, and so it brings back a lot of memories. It's really neat to be back on campus.
Former Ball State student, now the athletic director at Eastern Michigan, just over a year, is that correct, in that position? How's that first year been and learning that experience?
Yeah, it's been a great experience for me. I got on board last July and walked into a good situation. Our teams are on the up and up. I think our basketball programs are pretty solid right now, and obviously football had come off a bowl game for the first time in 30 years, and have a good coach in Coach Creighton. So I was really fortunate, and that was part of me taking the job, was kind of knowing what I was going to get into. And then now it's just me just kind of working on things and trying to make them better and improve and continue the momentum that we've been doing over the last few years.
And an exciting win last week, but maybe the most exciting win of the season, picking it up on the road at Purdue. What does a win like that mean for a program in the Mid-American Conference?
Well, it means a lot because the year previous we went to Rutgers, beat Rutgers, first time we've ever beaten a Power 5 team ever. And so just having that kind of off our back and then to turn around and do it again to another Big Ten team, it means a lot. It's one of the biggest wins we've ever had in our program. And it just kind of gives people the sense that, we do belong. There's been a lot of talk in previous years about our program and stuff, and I think we're taking those baby steps and finally getting over the hump. And then, beating Toledo last weekend, first time in 12 years. That goes a long ways with that. And we're in the middle right now of actually building the end zone, similar to what you guys did here a number of years ago. And so we're kind of behind a little bit, and so we're trying to catch up, and that's part of the process, getting some wins, getting the buildings we need, and then having the right coaching staff in place.
And you came from an SEC school, transitioning from the SEC to the MAC. What's that like?
It's obviously a lot different.
Yeah.
The staffs are not as big, and the financial resources are not necessarily there. But you know what? You grind, you work hard, you hire good people to do a good job. And so it's that part of it's not difficult. I was fortunate. I was at Fresno State, San Diego State. I've been at Western and Ball State before, and then East Carolina. So I've been at a group of 5, and I know what it is to kind of roll up our sleeves and not have the resources that the SEC has. But it also gave me a lot of cool ideas and be able to work with some great people and then to use those and kind of come to Eastern and put our own little stamp on it.
Eastern Michigan has one of the most unique football fields in the country. It's all gray.
Yep.
Maybe provide us a little insight as to the story of how that came to be.
Yeah, when Coach Creighton got hired, one of his mantras and strategies was we'll play anybody, anywhere, anytime, and heck, we'll go out and play on a blacktop with broken glass if we have to. We don't care. And so that's kind of where it's like, well, how about we put on a gray field and it'll look like broken glass on a basketball court or something, and we'll play anywhere. And it kind of goes back to the factory theme, a blue collar, roll up our sleeves. We're just outside of Detroit and Ann Arbor and Ford and General Motors and Chrysler and everything. So it's a factory type. So we like to kind of take that on, and that's why you have the steel-plated numbers and have that. It's just kind of his look and feel, and we like to run through a wall. Like, how bad do you want it? We want it so bad we'll run through a wall. So that's just kind of the background of it. I like it. I mean, it's a talking point. Whether people you like it or don't like it, you talk about it. And so we have that, and I'm okay with it.
And as someone who's made their rounds in the Mid-American Conference, it's a conference with great parity. Consistent parity, but what I've noticed is that all these teams stick together and understand that the MAC is underrated. What are your thoughts on the Mid-American Conference?
Yeah, and that's what I like about even our AD meetings. We all look at each other, and we're all in the same boat. We compete against each other, and I've gotten to know Beth here, and I want to beat them on the field, and then for me, it's kind of a win-win. But and then after we're done, we're supporting each other, and that's why the Pirate flag means a lot. We're in group text together, like, hey, good win against Purdue, and then I'm sending notes to Mark at Buffalo for beating Rutgers, and we're having those conversations. It's important for our league, and we are underrated. We know it. We see it every week, and that's why going out and competing against these non-conference opponents and winning means a lot. And we just need to keep trying to elevate our league, whether it's in volleyball, which has done well in the past, and our basketball programs, that we just continue to elevate those across the board.
As our first guest from the visiting school, we every guest we give the opportunity for the prediction. You've got your feet a little bit in both sides, so I'll just ask it: who takes home the victory today? We don't need scores, but it's okay. We see the E on the shirt. We won't miss that.
I will say that I know it will be a close game. I mean, we have always kind of had that where it's been close. Last year was an anomaly with playing. You guys were injured a lot, and you got your quarterback back in play and having a good year, and so it's going to be one of those 21-20, 24-21. That's especially with the wind and the weather right now. What I will predict is somebody's going to call a timeout to force the other one to kick into the wind or want to be able to kick with the wind. It's going to happen.
That's something we hadn't thought about.
I think that's going to happen tonight as well. So, but I hope I go home victorious, and you can take that however you want.
Hey, perfectly acceptable here.
Yes, Scott, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. And this is great. Sports Link and what you guys do, I followed a lot. I hired Erinn Van Auken from the group. You guys keep doing a good job. Listen to Chris Taylor. He's doing a great job as well. And good luck to you guys
Thank you very much, Scott. We
appreciate that. And Scott, you know how important this game is, but the running back group for Ball State knows exactly how important this Eastern Michigan game is on homecoming as well.
If your goal is to get to the MAC championship, you can't afford any losses. We took one close loss to Northern, so every MAC win's important.
Eastern Michigan is a good team. They lost a whole bunch of close games, went into some overtimes with some great teams in our conference. I just think it's big being back at homecoming, got people coming back, and emotions are high after our MAC win last week, so we're just trying to get on the run here.
Eastern Michigan's really good. They really are. I mean, you don't go to Purdue and Purdue's having success and win that game. They've been a part of these close games, and frankly, I think it's going to be a 4-quarter game, and maybe more. Who knows?
A lot on the line this weekend. An opportunity for us to get to 3-1 in the MAC, for us to get to 500 overall. It's homecoming. I don't know what more you can ask for.
Big week for Ball State here on homecoming, which leads us to our favorite segment on the panel, not to overreact, but Jack, let's start with you.
Not to overreact, but last week was the biggest win in the Mike New era for a team that's trying to get over the hump in these close games, rebounding from a really difficult 2-10 season last year. Now Mike New has his recruits in this program. Ball State is competitive. They just haven't been able to get over the hump in these close games, and they finally did. And it came at a pivotal point in the season where Ball State's 2-4 on the road. They could drop to 2-5, 1-2 in the MAC. That's difficult to climb out of in this conference. 2-1, 3-4. That's a whole different ball game. So I really do believe that last week was the biggest win of the Mike New era, but if the Cardinals get the win today, I think this week would trump last week.
That's surprising to me. I agree with what you said, and a real key point, the clutch. Clutch is really what made that such a big game and so important. To see Morgan Hagee not only individually put it through, but to see a team come back from behind, you're right. Could be a very important game in the Mike New era, but hopefully one of many here.
It took so much resilience from that team, being down 20-7, a difficult loss the previous week to Northern Illinois. They come out and they fight and they claw and they climb back into the game, and then they find themselves in another difficult scenario, close game, down 2. What are you going to do? Riley Neal leads his team down the field, and Morgan Hagee, the senior, comes through. It was just it really was a team effort at Central Michigan, and they were able to get it done.
And especially the way the defense played in the second half, only allowing 3 points to Central Michigan, which leads me to my point, not to overreact, but this is the best Ball State defense that the Cardinals have seen since the 2013 season, which is the last time they went to a bowl game. It's the linebacking group. It's the fact that Elson has gotten himself established here. And it's the attack the football mentality that's got this group going.
It's a deep team. We've talked about that a lot, especially the front seven. We've seen the corners lose just a little bit with just some of the injuries that have come. They're not as locked down as we've seen, but we're seeing the front seven make up for it. Christian Albright is a tremendous pass rusher. And then we talked about James Jeanette as a guy who can come in off the back and fill in when he's on the break. We talked about also the top 4 tacklers on this team are those linebackers. You can't overstate how critical and important those linebackers are.
And the linebackers have thrived in the new system, 3-4 defense, and the depth arguably is most deep at linebacker. So all the backups to these linebackers can come in and they won't miss a beat. So the depth, the emergence of some of these young players, and then the veterans that they're able to bring back, like Jacob White, a guy like Josh Miller in the secondary, the defense has improved drastically because of the new scheme and the players that they brought back and the new talent. So because of that, if you look at the numbers, 40 points given up per game last year, 24 this year, and they're forcing turnovers.
Not to mention, you're seeing a lot of that experience that we saw that occurred last season due to those injuries. As the season goes on this year, you're seeing this team grow together, too. There's a chemistry and a continuity coming with that as well.
Yeah, they have continuity this year, unlike last year when all the injuries just depleted the team.
And for Ball State going forward, it's big defensively, but it's also big on the offensive end, Alex, and I know you've got something to touch on with that.
Not to overreact, but Corey Lacanaria has been the best receiver for Ball State this season. 36, which is actually every reception he has this year, 36 straight receptions without a drop. It's something we've seen Justin Hall played with a little bit here in his sophomore campaign, and coming in, we thought he'd have the ability. Some of those drops and different defensive coverages have taken away from some of that. Riley Miller is a possession receiver. Huge game against Kent State. Awesome. But Corey Lacanaria has been consistent. He's been there consistently for Riley Neal in a tough situation too. 36 catches as top 5 in the Mid-American Conference, nearly 400 yards receiving. He's been dominant this year.
I think you could go either way with Lacanaria or Miller. I agree that Lacanaria has been the most consistent, but Miller had that big game against Kent State, over 200 yards. And on third down, I think Neal goes to Miller more often than any other player. So I think it's a flip of a coin, but absolutely. Lacanaria had a fantastic year, and he has been the most consistent. He seemed to show up every game, and drops are a huge thing that he's been able to eliminate.
And not to mention, there's a chemistry with Riley Miller. There's a comfort level to that. So that's something to weigh into all of this, too. Lacanaria has been consistent. He's been solid. Don't expect anything else today.
It's the improvement like you talked about. He had a couple drops in the past few years that have come back to haunt him. This year, he's put it out of his mind. Redshirt senior season, just trying to take it one game at a time, one catch at a time, and he's done that.
You're exactly right. He's been consistent. He's been there all the time. Also, he's been a big play guy, which is odd because he's so small, just 5'11", 32-yard reception last week at Central Michigan. Only a couple catches, but gets 50, 60 yards, and he's just around a strong route runner. He's really stepped up his game this year.
He's a unique receiver. He's not the tallest guy, but he's strong. He has really strong hands, so if he's able to get his hands on the ball, then it's difficult to get it out of there. And also, he's difficult to bring down. He's pretty shifty. He's just a really solid receiver all around, and that's a difficult cover for a secondary. And Ball State has a lot of receivers like that. Not the tallest guys. I think Johannes Tyler's the tallest receiver at 6'3", and he's not even a first stringer. So Justin Hall, 5'9". Corey Lacanaria is under 6 foot. I think Riley Miller's right around that mark. They're good route runners. They have strong hands. They're pretty good after the catch, and they make up a good receiving corps.
Trying to get Lacanaria going today, as well as the rest of the offense in what is the 92nd edition of homecoming here. Mike New knows how important this game is for Ball State going forward.
Well, we're playing a team now that's got a similar type of, format, if you will, that I've been using, and so they're playing really good defense, playing a team that's somewhat similar as far as what we've seen the last few weeks, and so most importantly, though, they're playing good football. They're playing good football. They've lost their fair share of close games, and so there's a lot on the line this weekend, an opportunity for us to get to 3-1 in the MAC, for us to get to 500 overall. It's homecoming. I don't know what more you can ask for. It's exciting. Our guys are certainly had a great week of preparation here, knowing that, hey, man, this is the biggest game that we've had around here. And so it's going to be awesome. We got to finish off our week of preparation here and make sure that we're that team that came out in the second half in Mount Pleasant. We got to be that team when the ball's kicked off here at home. Feed off the energy, our fans, homecoming atmosphere, feed off of that energy. And
our thanks to Mike New for catching up with us. Ball State Eastern Michigan kickoff at 3 o'clock. You can catch that game on SL Digital with Alex Thomas and Jack Kizer. That's going to do it for us. Make sure to come back post-game as we recap everything that happened on the 92nd edition of Homecoming. For our producer, Erinn Casey, our technical director, Jared Frank, as well as the rest of our SL Game Day crew, I'm Jarin Matheny saying so long from Schumann Stadium. Be sure to follow us on all social media at BSU Sports Link and come back here after the game for more Sports Link Game Day. This has been a presentation of Ball State Sports Link.